ekaro, ekason, ekale, depending on where you guys are watching and what time of day it is for you. As I mentioned in my last video, I am learning my fourth language, Yoruba, at the age of 28. And Tia in English was one personality. Tia in Italian is another personality. And now Tia in Yoruba, she's loading. Hey YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. I know that I have an audience from all around the world and most of you aren't African or Nigerian. So what is Yoruba? Yoruba is a language spoken in West Africa, and it's the native language of over 50 million people across Western Nigeria, Togo, and Benin. The official language of Nigeria is the colonial language of English, but one of the national languages of Nigeria, one of the indigenous languages of Nigeria, is Yoruba, and I chose to study it for a few reasons. First, because I started a company in Nigeria and we're mostly based out of Lagos, so learning Yoruba gave me a deeper level of understanding and attachment to the local area that I'm actually operating in. But also, my dad is one of those 50 million native speakers. I'm half Yoruba, and so learning Yoruba has been a really beautiful activity for me in terms of reconnecting with my roots. I started studying Yoruba in May, and these are some of the interesting things that I noticed when comparing Yoruba to English and Italian. The big elephant in the room is that Yoruba is a tonal language. That is the biggest and farthest difference from Italian and English that I have seen so far. Yoruba has 25 letters, 7 oral vowels, 5 nasal vowels. Not really sure what oral vowels and nasal vowels are because I'm not a linguist, but all of the vowels and some of the consonants have 3 tones. So that means in normal human speak that there are a lot of different sounds and pronunciations within the Yoruba language. That in and of itself has been interesting. If wako is drive, is ko drive? I mean car?
Oko.
Oko. But isn't that husband?
Now we have Oko.
Oko.
We have Oko.
Oko.
We have Oko.
Oda.
Oko, 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 Oko. Oko, husband. Oko, car. Oko, ho.
Oda. Because of the tones, written Yoruba looks like this, which can be pretty intimidating, but it's just because as native English speakers, we've never seen these before, and so they're totally different. But I've heard that Yoruba speakers actually learn Chinese pretty easily and vice versa because they're both tonal languages, for example. Something that I've liked so far about studying Yoruba is that you don't really conjugate verbs, which was nice after memorizing like a gazillion conjugations in Italian. Yoruba is similar to English in that it mostly uses helping verbs to talk about tenses. So if I want to talk about something in the past, I would say mojeun, 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 I ate. If I want to talk about something happening now, I would say monjeun, monjeun, monjeun. In the future, it would be momajeun or majeun, motijeun, mofejeun, moferon latijeun, molejeun pupo. I find Yoruba grammar to be pretty logical, and the difficulty then comes with pronunciation and tones rather than conjugations. In fact, please, you guys, you don't have to tell me that I pronounce something wrong or my tones are off. I know that. I have not learned them yet. Yoruba is basically genderless, which was refreshing coming from English, which is lightly gendered, and Italian, which in Italian everything is gendered. On the one hand, this is obviously one less thing to worry about grammatically, but I think it also highlights something that I've always personally liked about pre-colonial Yoruba culture and Yoruba philosophy. The societal and familial hierarchy is not gender-based, but age-based. And you really see this play out in real life, at least in Yoruba land that I've seen. Age and experience is going to trump everything else. And I personally try to never say that something is better or worse, especially when I haven't lived it. But what I can say is that, again, coming from a position, society, language, religion, culture where gender is very paramount, it's refreshing to be exposed to something that is different than that. Outside of mother, father, husband, wife, if you want to specify that something is male or female, you have to actually put the word for male or female in front of it. Otherwise, there is no way to tell. And so children are just children, students are just students, workers are just workers, and friends are just friends. As far as what I know, there's no word for son or daughter. It would be male child or female child. And generally, people just say child. Another aspect and example of the genderless nature of Yoruba is the fact that, Yoruba names are also genderless. My name is Abiola, and there are lots of girls and lots of boys with the name Abiola. So, as I said, it's just a difference that has been refreshing because language is shaped by your culture, and this culture is obviously then manifested in society, and it has been refreshing to see an approach where, again, gender isn't as big of a deal. But then, on the other hand, you now have to worry about age. So, for example, if you want to talk about your siblings, you'd say egbon for older sibling or auburo for younger sibling. There's no general word for sibling. Like Italian, Yoruba has a specific formal form of grammar and informal form of grammar. And coming from English, where we don't, this has been something to get used to. Furthermore, Italian society is like American society in that older people tend to not want to be old, which is a whole conversation for another day. But it tends to be rude to emphasize too heavily that someone is old or making them feel old. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, it's the total opposite, and there have been quite a few situations where even in English, I'm not really sure how to address or behave around older people because I don't want to come off as disrespectful by not acknowledging their age. But I'm just so used to treating older people as equals because that's where I'm coming from. But you're definitely not equals in Nigeria. Yeah. So in conclusion, is Yoruba harder than English and Italian? I don't believe in hard languages, honestly. I think that people can have an easier or a harder time learning languages based on their circumstance. So what's your native language? How much do you know about grammar mechanics in languages in general? How exposed are you to a language? Are all things that I think impact how easy or hard a language seems to be. I hear people say all the time that English is such an easy language, even though a lot of people can't actually speak English. But as English speakers, we are raised to not come out and say that. We are raised to just be gracious. But anyways, this is not the hard or easy language Olympics. But I would just argue that I think this perception comes from the fact that English is a really accessible language, and a lot of that accessibility is actually imposed. You're surrounded by English, and that allows you to learn English passively, so it can seem easier. But truthfully, if I think of what I've learned in English and Italian now, being two languages that are not tonal, I actually think they share a lot of similarities. And for the hard things in Italian, I can name a hard thing in English. As a native English speaker, Italian conjugations were hard for me because we conjugate verbs differently in English. But English spelling and pronunciation seems to be pretty hard for Italian native speakers. Gendered nouns were hard for me in Italian because we don't really have those in English. But I know that English plurals and the fact that there are so many irregular nouns and verbs in English are hard for other people. So that being said, bringing this back to Yoruba, there are some differences that make Yoruba seem hard, and there are some similarities that make it seem easy. But regardless, I'm learning because I'm aware of all of this and because I'm passionate about learning a language. And I've said that in videos before, that it is the passion and the dedication that is going to allow you to learn a language quickly, and I think easily. So yes, that's me and my new language, Yoruba. Let me see if I can just leave you guys with something, leave you with a little something from Yoruba. Ekasan, because it is afternoon where I am. Ekabo to my channel on YouTube. Mo feran lati share videos on YouTube. Hey, no shade. No, but that's gonna be it for now. My question to you guys, have you ever tried to learn another language in a later age where you're able to be successful in it, and what are the things that you've noticed? What are the languages that you can speak, and do you notice any interesting differences, similarities between them? And also, what's your native language, and what was the hardest language that you've tried to learn and the easiest language, in your opinion, that you were able to learn? These are all things that I would love to know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, because I've spoken too much already, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Mwah.